Record here. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up this worksheet and I'll be working on it as we're talking through this.
Mhm.
Okay, so I have the homeschool quick fact sheet and I have your name on in here. So, okay, I need to make it smaller so I can see you. I don't like not being able to see you when I'm
Will
going.
I see it as you're working on it, or this is for you?
No, I'm gonna send it to you right afterwards though. Okay, so what is your, I'm just going to be filling it in essentially. So, what is your homeschool goal for this year?
Mm. I think to really understand my daughter's learning style and how I can fit into that with her, and really just kind of reflect.
To understand, so your homeschool goal is to understand your daughter's learning style and how to fit with that, like fit in with that, and to reflect. And I was asking if you, like, do you know your daughter's learning styles?
So she's definitely eclectic, but she doesn't do well with just like sitting down, doing worksheets, going through things. It has to be a game. She loves um pretend play. She's super imaginative. So, and she loves like stuffed animals and just animals in general. And so today we were reviewing the letters that we've been working on, and I made it a game where she like picked a card and then tried to identify the letter and sound, and then would go and get a stuffed animal that matched that letter.
Yeah.
And I'm not, let's do this every day. So
You're not feeling
if you
like
can
doing
give
it
me insight
every
on
day.
that, that would be great.
Sorry, what was the last part you said? You're not feeling like doing it every day?
She was saying that she would do something like that every day.
She
So
would,
an activity. Yes, she would for sure.
but you're not feeling like it.
Well, I want to do whatever is helping her little mind grow. So I guess, yeah, I would absolutely do something like that every day. I just feel like if someone's doing something the same way every day, it could also get old. And since we found a game that works, I don't want to wear it out.
So you need some variety.
Right.
Okay. So that would be more along interests, actually. I'm gonna walk you through. Let me make a note of that you want interests or variety for yours. But I'm gonna pull up another resource that we have.
Okay.
And Flourish, have you gone through it, the Discover Your Child's Learning Style and Your Teaching?
I have. It wouldn't hurt to go back to it because it's
Okay.
been several months. I think really when we joined the first time.
Okay. So let's pull that up. Learning styles. Okay. So this goes through like the main three that most people know of. So there's visual, verbal, or kinesthetic. So visual is like drawing graphs, making a poster, viewing a video. Verbal is like group discussion, read alouds, processes by talking out loud. Kinesthetic is like hands-on learning, building, highly active, and then you can have a combination. So where would you say she lies on that?
He's a little bit everything.
All three equally?
No, I would say hands-on learning and like reading aloud and kind of bouncing things back and forth, bouncing ideas.
So that sounds mostly kinesthetic and verbal. Okay.
She's a very deep thinker. So she's not always saying things, but when she does,
Well, that's
we
going to bring me kind of to the next part, which is she more social or solitaire? So like I know, and that she could be equal. So, because you were saying like for social, like role play. So she's doing like the pretend play, but then
Mhm.
you also mention like deep thinking. So like solitaire is like in-depth research, reflecting. So she could be equal in this area. Is that what you, it sounds like to me, but what does it sound like to you?
Yeah, I think so. I am realizing lately that she is requiring more downtime, especially with her brother who is like full energy all the time. And so she's always kind of required some down quiet time, but it seems like now more than ever she's needed it. So I would say balance, but she's very social.
Okay.
That
I'm
is
gonna put
really
combo with solitaire first and then social next. Because, like, the recharging aspect, that's normal. But if she's needing even more, you're saying recently, like, that might be her kind of stepping into her personality more. Because how old is she again?
she's 5, she's about to turn 6.
Okay, I was gonna say six, but okay. So six.
She's more on the 6 side for sure.
Okay.
I think that's part of all of this is that she's kind of really like shifting into her older version.
Yeah, and especially with girls, like they mentally develop quicker, and so I could see you stepping into that definitely right now. Because
Right.
I feel like I stepped into that with Jace in the 5, 6 years, or where he's 6 right now, going on 7. So like it's just been yeah amazing how much growth like, and I could imagine a girl being even more so.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. And it
okay,
happened
so
really fast.
yeah, I know.
He wasn't really into um like aesthetic art and like visual art and things of that sort. And then this summer was like one day she's like, I want to create, and since then she just doesn't stop. So it even that just changed so fast.
Okay, I'm gonna make a note of that, like art as an interest too for her. Okay. So then the last thing for her that we'll know,
Crochet. She loves painting and drawing.
she loves painting and what?
Drawing.
Okay. I made a note of that on there for art, for her interests. And then the last thing is musical, logical, or combination. So musical, songs, rhymes, poems, instruments, logical, like compare and contrast, maps, timelines, code.
I would say more musical.
Okay. So,
It's interesting because I would say both again, but definitely more along the lines of music and
yeah.
that sort. But it's nice when you can incorporate those other things in like subtle ways.
Yeah, you'll probably have like everyone usually has a little bit of all of it. It's you're wanting to look at like what is the majority, what's sticking out, because then you can help them really work towards their biggest interests.
Right.
Okay, so then for your teaching style. So it sounds like you're highly involved. Do you like to ask questions or observe?
That's a hard one. Both. I I
One
think
more.
I think observation though, because I've had a few classrooms and when it comes to her as well, I think I gain more understanding from just sitting back and watching.
Me too. Yeah.
And that anyways.
The last part went out, but you were just saying that observation you understand the most is how you glean from her, really. I get that. Okay, so for your interests, what like combination interests do you have with her? So like do you enjoy the games?
Sometimes I can have a hard time getting into pretend play. Um, but we really enjoy like going outside together and doing activities
I
there.
was
And
just writing that because I just know you. So I was writing outdoors as you said that. That was
that
hilarious.
is definitely where we connect the most is being outside, nature play, science, things of that sort. And then now that she is more into visual,
Okay.
Because she's more interested, we just are doing a lot more together as far as painting and drawing and taking them out. And tomorrow, like she's been cooking a lot, so tomorrow we're gonna go get some fabric so we can like make her an apron. She's just really showing interest in all that now.
Okay, so cooking, sewing. Okay. So I have outdoors, art, cooking, sewing, games. You said sometimes on the games, so I'm gonna label that 5. Like this is like the least amount. Like because we're giving you your variety here. So like what would outdoors be? Is that number 1 or no? Five's gone. So is it 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Right. For me, for me, I would say that outdoors is number one. For her, I would say that games is number one. So
Okay. Okay. Then
yeah,
we're gonna bring games. Are you willing to bring games to 4 or 3?
we can do three.
Okay.
If I have a game in mind, like, or if I found something that works for us, I'm all about it. I
Prepared,
think sometimes,
easy, fun.
right. I think it's more the like holding that space in my mind to like come up with things or to make sure that it's ready is hard for me,
Yeah.
to always balance.
Okay. So 1 outdoors, 3 is games. So where would art stand? Because you have art, cooking, and sewing.
I would say art is probably two,
That's what I was thinking.
and cooking is four. And I think she's getting into where she'd rather do it a lot, but I think I'm still in a place where with the little one, it can be stressful to always
Mm-hmm.
trying to include them, in everything. Although I would love that just some days.
It there's balance to it to where you're not doing it all at once. You're putting
Right.
in time for this. Like if this is homeschool time and you're cooking for that homeschool activity, like I intentionally cook with my kids like 1 to 3 times a week. But
Okay.
cooking is huge for us. Cooking is like probably 2 for us.
Yeah. If I could, I would put cooking and games like at three. I mean,
Well, that's
it,
okay. You can
it's
move these things around. This doesn't have to be permanent. This is just to get you a good idea and get you started. And these things will change over time. This is just like the first plan of the year, you know?
yeah, 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 no
So is
doubt.
there any other like big interests that you guys both have? Because like games, outdoors, art, the cooking and sewing, are there any other areas where your guys's interests overlap here is what I'm kind of looking at. So like you
So,
mentioned stuffed animals and animals. Like outdoors, we can tie animals into that.
mhm.
But are there any other interests, I guess, that you have that you really want to teach her that she is interested in as well?
So physical activity is one of them, and it's something I've slipped away from and am like very motivated about at this time. And I realize that anytime I include her, making it like we're going to exercise, this is good for our body, like she is all about participating with me.
Like the biking. Okay,
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
wrote down movement. Just
Yeah.
movement. Like I enjoy that too. Okay, so where would movement be? Now we have 6 items. That's okay. Where would movement be? What do we want to move around? Haha.
Yeah.
That
What
timing.
unintended. So we have what? We have outdoors, we have art, we have
Yeah, and or I'll say it in order for you. Outdoors, art, games, cooking, sewing. So we need to figure out where do you want to put movement? Is it 6 or do we want to move it somewhere else and put something else there?
I would love for movement to be like two,
Okay.
like one and two, because I think they're outdoors and
Is
movement really.
outdoors and movement the same thing for you? Is that always how you
Not
guys are moving?
necessarily,
Okay.
no, because a lot of times outdoors for us is really just, I mean, they're swinging, they're jumping on the trampoline, they're climbing. So I guess, yes, it could be. But also, we can just go out and collect pine cones or take a walk in the woods and play with our chickens. So,
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just gonna push everything back from that. Does that sound good? So it would be one outdoors, two movement, three games, four art, five cooking, and six sewing.
if you, and really sewing, I think could fall into art. I mean, I know it's not the same, but I also feel like,
Okay.
it's something to like do with our hands
So
and
a few of these, this is kind of like when we get down there, it'll make more sense. And we might do that. Let's just see. We'll move forward for now and we'll see if you want to do that in a minute. So your homeschool style. Do you know what your homeschool style is?
eclectic is one of them, correct?
Okay, so yeah, definitely. Because yeah, eclectic, I've heard you use that term and
Might
you
could
have a
be on.
so
Could
your
you
homeschool style,
refresh? Yeah, could you just refresh me for with the styles?
yes. So let me just mention eclectic. And then I'll pull up my doc here that has them all written out. So I'm just going to the Flourish course, which you can do this at any point. So in Patreon, when you go to like the collections,
Mm-hmm.
be able to see one of them is course, and it will give you like the password, the link. So I'm just logging into that right now because that's where like all these resources are.
Yeah, and I remember again, it's probably just good to do a refresher because when I first joined Flourish, I did all of this and but it has been a while.
Yeah,
It's
and
hard.
some things have changed. So that's where like the first thing on the course is like your learning style, your teaching style. So we went through that. So then next is this homeschool style. And there's other resources in there, but we'll go through this. So traditional, which is essentially school at home. You're using similar methods to like public or private schools. Um,
Right.
typically, you have textbooks, desks, wall posters, pretty much just taking school at home. Personally, I don't recommend it, but it does work for some people, and that's okay. I just would say it doesn't need to be as long as,
Oh yeah, right.
the 8 hour school day, especially
Mhm.
for the age of your kiddo. I'm much more of a fan of the 4 hour school day adjusted for age. So, like at her age, it's like 30 minutes to an hour,
Mhm.
like intentional homeschool time. Like, same with Jace. Like, Jace, we're doing like 30 to 45 minutes typically. Um,
Right.
and then road schooling, which that's when you're on the road and you're incorporating schooling. World schooling, that's when you're like full on traveling. Road schooling is more like RV van. Unschooling, which this would be like you're following the child's interests and curiosities. You may not always use a curriculum. Your learning might just be like hands-on cooking and you're learning math through that.
Mhm.
um, Eclectic, which definitely it's a mixture. Classical is the goal of teaching children to think for themselves. It's where like children move through three main stages: concrete learning, which is like the grammar stage, critical learning, the logic stage, and abstract learning, the rhetoric stage. It's language focused, literature focused. It's very similar to like Charlotte Mason.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
similar to that, but a bit more grammar, I would say.
Okay.
Montessori, it's more for early childhood education. It once again looks at the kid as a whole, looks at the kid's interests. Self-regulation is the key. So it's like where does it say here? The ability of a child to regulate his or her conduct in a way that is appropriate to the situation. So it's like helping them to prepare for, it says, the biggest classroom of all, life.
Mm.
Um, with Montessori, there's also lots of like hands-on learning, wooden toys, natural resources. Unit studies is where you use unit studies and you delve deep into a subject specifically. Charlotte Mason is literature, living books, really delving into storytelling. Um, Also the aspects of like habits. I really like that about Charlotte Mason, like focusing on like habits, routines, the basic skills of taking care of a household and teaching them chores first. Um, Waldorf is similar
I'm
to,
very familiar with Waldorf.
okay,
I
so
am
there's
I
so
am
many. I
familiar.
know there's
There are
so
so
many.
many. So the preschool that she attended and then that there are options for them, but it's not, it is just kind of led by them. It's learned through play. It's very nature and creative based. And so I would say we really do kind of move along those lines. But we are eclectic in that I would say there's a lot more unschooling for us. There are things about Waldorf that I appreciate, although I have been stuck on like how much grammar do I push on her, because I can see she's kind of showing me when she's ready for those things.
So she's showing you she is, or no?
Sometimes
Okay.
that's why I'm trying not to be so stuck in my mindset that like school should look like,
Yeah.
you know, you know,
Do
this little
you
box.
do you want like, or do you already do a lot of reading? Or is that not as natural?
No, I mean, we're reading every day of the week. There's definitely some days that are more than others, so
Is that like the majority though? Is
what's
that
that?
like is that the a big majority of one of your homeschool styles, you feel like?
No, not necessarily. I mean, yeah, I would say knowing other people, like if I could compare to other people that I know, no, it's not like our number one priority. And what
So,
you were mentioning about the forming habits, it is definitely something that it is one of my biggest focus, but I also don't feel like it is a strong suit of mine. And I often feel like I would like for it to be more of a focus in
okay.
forming good habits. We're kind of a family that flies by the seat of our pants, and I
Yeah,
love that about us. And it also, I consider it a weakness sometimes.
I gotcha. Okay, so I put unschooling, game schooling, because that was the next couple ones we didn't go through. It was game schooling and like forest or nature. So I
Mhm.
put unschooling, game schooling, nature, and Charlotte Mason.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's go through. Are you wanting to focus on all the subjects?
Um, I kind of like the balance that we have been doing because thus far I've just kind of been running on my own, like made up curriculum with different resources that I've gathered, but like definitely Bible, um, definitely some language, um, and then like math and science are big, but I feel like we incorporate those a lot with just what we do in our day to day.
Okay. So do you want to plug that in? Like if you were to look at something to have, because I'm gonna create like a lesson plan, kind of outline a basic one for you. So
Okay.
like, would you want to see that, okay, you're doing that and know like, oh, I don't have to homeschool today. Like I
Right.
did
Yeah.
that. Like, do you want to give yourself that freedom or do you want to push yourself? Are you trying to work towards doing even more? Like, do you feel that need to do it and push a little more so you want to tie in these other subjects more?
Yeah, I feel like I would incorporate it more if it was laid out for me, or if, I like intentionally knew that it was It was part of the plan.
So with your curriculum kind of setup that we're creating, you want it to be mostly Bible and language arts then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
That's
most
what we've been doing thus. Like that is the main two that we have focused on.
okay. And then are there any resources you're already using and enjoying and want to keep using?
Yeah, I have been using this. A friend gave it to me, Alphabet Forest.
Okay.
This has been great.
I haven't seen that before.
And it really goes through like phonics and reading. So it's like got the letters, but it's all like nature based.
Cool.
Yeah. And so it's got poems, it's got activities. There's always a recipe at the end. There's different movements and things of that sort, but it's all based around like the letter. Um,
Movements too?
yeah, there's some yoga
That
stuff.
hits that hits a lot of your stuff
It
there.
really does. It is a
Cool.
fantastic resource. Like yeah.
All right, I got that one down. Is there anything else that you guys have been using?
Yeah,
You want me to
the
know?
thing that I've been using to like lay out my planning comes from another resource that a friend shared with me from Oak Meadow.
I've heard of that.
And it's great. But what she lets me do is kind of like copy the lessons. So
Uh,
I'm seeing the lessons, but then I'm just basically forming my like week to week based on the bullet points. So I'm not
it's
actually
kind of like
seeing.
you're following the outline and figuring it out yourself.
Right. So like here it's kind of got language arts, math, science, arts and crafts, music, movement, health. And I find that, like it's been really helpful for me to kind of lay out. And then I have just been finding Bible topics to study.
Where have you been
And
finding those?
those are just, I've sometimes based like scripture on the letter that we've been talking about, like for L, it was about love from Colossians and but then also like we've been through the Ten Commandments, we've been through I'm trying to think what we kind of like started off. I've had these like coloring sheets that give you a psalm, and so that's my problem though, is sometimes I'm trying to pull from too many places, and so it can kind of get watered down.
Well, you know what you can do is if you're pulling from lots of places and you want to keep doing that, we can create this lesson plan where it's like those things are written down so you know that you're using them and they're not just getting forgotten. What we'll need to figure out though is how you organize it so it's easy to access. Do you have that set up?
What do you mean by that? Like, uh, bless you.
Excuse me. Ah, sneezes.
You
My
mean like
dog just shook and he's like, here's a sneeze, Desiree. Okay, I'm actually allergic to animals. I know. I know.
oh,
I'm actually allergic to their fur and their saliva, and I still have them because I can't help it.
all animals? Like,
Yeah, all of them. I rub up on them, and if like I don't really let them lick me, but if they do, like I'll get hives actually. Like,
that would be so hard,
but
especially
I've
if
always
you love
like
animals.
I've had my dog for he's like 9 years old now, and then we have another dog and we have like 17 chickens. So it's whatever. I think my
You just
allergies
deal
are
with the
not as
pain,
bad. Like, I mean, they're
right?
not as bad. I've slowly like sensitized to him, I think. So like if he shakes, maybe I'll sneeze, but I can pet him and that's fine. I don't let him lick me though. But yeah,
Are any of your boys allergic to?
so far, they don't know. I haven't seen anything, which is great. That's part of why I wanted to like keep. I remember when we had our first kid, I was like, we already had my dog Troy. I was like, well, do we want to keep him? Like, is this something we
Right.
really think about? Like, are we going to be able to handle this? And one thing I was like, well, it would be really good to help them with allergies actually and
Yeah.
comfortable to like have some chores. Like Jace actually feeds Troy every day. So like that's a good responsibility. So yeah, it's worked out great. I'm very thankful for that. I wanted to ask you, are there any Bible studies, I call it like Bible study, family devotional, whatever you want to call it, that you want to do as a part of your homeschooling? Like any specific themes? Like you mentioned like letters like L for love and then 10 Commandments, Psalms. Like is there any other specific ones that you want to do this year?
Hmm. I would love to I would need to explore this more. I don't know that I could answer this
That's
specifically
okay.
right now.
I'll
But
put it on your to-do list.
like one thing that we do for screen time are Bible stories. We found some like really great resources that like animated Bible stories that we love, and they've really gathered a lot of like the stories that kids would hear at her age about Bible stories. I want to explore stories maybe that aren't as popular for kids to hear. So I would have to like make a list of that, but
I love that. I love
yeah.
that, Claire. I'm actually gonna do a quick search on that.
Ooh, yes, please let me know. And I think it's because like we do, oh, I did ask her this the other day. One night I just happened to come across like a Bible trivia, and I was asking her when we were laying in bed, and she was really enjoyed that. Um, and so I think doing things like Bible trivia for the things that she does know at this point would be
How would you
great.
want to incorporate that? Like, were you just asking her the questions? Did you have a card and you just like kind of flashed it? Kind of like I'm thinking of when I used to go to like I went to a the office trivia at a bar one time. Like I'm thinking of like the board game person and me
Yeah,
loves
she
that
could
sort
also answer office trivia. That's
of
probably horrible to say, but she loves The Office. Um, yeah, so I think it would be really fun to maybe like make flashcards, but probably like go to a resource that already has trivia questions. Because again, I would make it like harder on myself. It would be like adding tasks that
Well,
I really need.
Claire, you have me and you're in Flourish, and I make custom resources. So
Yeah.
mention these things.
Okay.
We're going through it right now. Mention these things. You can put curriculum requests in there and be like, hey, I really am looking for something like this, and I can make it because I love making curriculum.
Yes,
It's
I
fun.
know. I'm so glad that you do.
It's
It,
fun
it
for me.
it's a fun skill set, but it's not that it's not a strong suit of mine, but it's definitely like something I have to be very like
You can only make so much.
about and like structured. And again,
Yeah.
it's hard for my brain, but
Yes, I can only do so many curriculum requests in a month. Yes.
right, I'm sure. But yeah, the Bible trivia would be really fun. And I think for her, just like that, um, like a random pick. That because that was like part of our game today was that she couldn't see which card or letter she was choosing from. You know, it was like the fun, like she pulled it out and there was an image, and then she would go from there. Like, what letter was this? What sound does it make? And so I think making that exciting for her is something that she really is drawn to.
Okay. So I'm looking at a couple things here for the unpopular Bible stories. And I want to ask, do you shy away from certain stories in the Bible
No.
when you're reading it? Like some people don't want to read certain ones, so that's what I want to ask. Okay. So like,
Nope. We want her to hear all of it. We're very open about that stuff.
okay, cool. We do too. We've had times where like I think the only one we've been weird about honestly is Cain and Abel. We're like, oh, don't think about hurting your brother.
No doubt. That's a
But we've
hard
just like
one.
prayed about it and we explained that it was sin and we move on. Like there's a lot of times we handle like you say it in a simple form. You read the scripture. If they ask more questions, you just say like simple forms of it to where that's age appropriate. And that's how we've handled that. Same with like here's another story, like the story of Jesus and the woman with the issue of blood. Like you just.
Oh
Sometimes
yeah.
that happens to where she was bleeding for years on end. And you know what? Then Jesus healed her because of her faith in him. Like, and you just move on. So,
Yeah.
so then let's look at this. So that was one, the story of Naaman, and I don't, there's some names I just never get right.
What was that? That was
A Syrian commander with leprosy who sought a cure from the prophet Elisha.
mm,
And then the story of Jabez, a character only mentioned in a few verses, but known for his famous prayer in First Chronicles 4:10. Um,
that.
and then there was the woman with the issue of blood, the story of Elisha and the bears. A man cursed a group of youths who mocked him, and God sent two female bears to eat them. Dang, I don't remember that.
I don't remember that
I'm
either.
gonna have
What?
to look that up because obviously you gotta
You
look
said that's in
up.
Chronicles?
This one, no, these are all different ones. So that
Oh,
one's
okay.
not. The story of Jabez was in
Oh,
Chronicles.
okay. Got it.
Um, I'll look into that. But then there's also 26 lesser known Bible stories from A to Z, and it like goes through like axe head to Second Kings 6, 1 through 7. Elisha and his friends were chopping down trees by the Jordan River to build a house. As one of the men were chopping down a tree, the axe head flew off and sank in the river. He cried out in sorrow because it was a borrowed axe. So Elisha broke off a stick, set it on the surface of the water, and the axe head miraculously floated to the top. I don't remember that. Isn't it fun how we can learn with our kids?
I want to learn all of these.
So
This is
I'm gonna link this. This is a couple of resources, and like we can put together stuff, but I'll link what I've found
okay.
also.
I'm really excited about these.
I know, it's
Talk
fun.
about a Bible study.
Okay, let me get that one linked. And then
One of my truly favorite Bible stories is, and this is pretty intense because it ends with a lot of murder or killing. It's not murder, it's just killing, but
mhm.
where Elijah goes to the 400 false prophets because they're worshiping Baal and he tells them to build an altar and he builds an altar. Do you know this?
Was this when Moses was gone?
No. Well, yeah, this would be
Like when
after.
he was up with
This is
like up
first.
on the mountain talking to God?
No, so that's the golden calf, and
That's what I'm yeah, that's what I'm
yeah,
thinking.
I've got some wild
Okay.
stories. Like Alma is very familiar with that story. She brings up the golden calf all the time. I think she's got a precious moment. It was my precious moments Bible, but like for some reason the golden calf story is like um has
Sticks
there's
out.
like yeah. There's an image like in that Bible of that, and she like remembers that story a lot. But
Yeah.
no, the Elijah one is there are false prophets worshiping Baal, and he said, "You build an altar, and I'll build an altar, and you pray to your God, and I'll pray to
Oh
my God."
yeah. And
And
the one went up in flames.
yeah, he tells them to drench it in water, and it like goes up in flames. And he's
Yeah,
like, "They'll know
I do
today that
remember that.
that you're God." It's like it's
My
such a
God is real. Look at your gods.
right. Yeah,
Like,
he's
yeah,
like
I remember
he
that one.
mocks them by being like, "Oh, maybe he's just like sleeping." Like, yeah,
That was a good story.
it's
Yeah.
a, it's a
Yeah, my kids, they get excited about David and Goliath.
oh
And they'll
yeah,
be like, I am Goliath. And then I'll be like, okay, where's David? Go get a slingshot.
right.
Like,
No, that's so fitting to Ewan because he's so little and he's like he'll always be like, "I'm not tiny." So
mm,
he's got this little man complex, and we're
totally a boy
like,
thing.
"But you're so mighty," and so he loves that story because he knows
Yeah.
that David defeated him.
There's also another resource that I've enjoyed. I've done a few activities from it so far. I said that weird, so far. And it's like teach me about God and it's like hands-on Bible activities. And
Mm.
so far the one I picked was really simple. It was like you crumple up pieces of paper and you throw it in a bin or anything around the house and it's meant to be like the aiming of the slingshot and you read the story of David and Goliath and like to show you that like God made David's aim perfect. Like it's just
Mm.
it ties in just like the movement, like we were talking about, the hands-on, and then a Bible story. So I can share that too in here. So I'm gonna make a note about that. Okay. Are there any like we're almost through here, by the way. Is there any like troubleshooting you feel like you need to do? Like
Mm.
issues that are coming up that you're saying you need to work on, or you foresee them potentially happening and you're like, okay, let's get ahead of this.
Yeah, I really think it's just the structure and maybe
You need
we
variety in your structure.
yeah, but at the same time, I need to like hone in on structure. I've seen like I have your like daily charts where things are kind of like mapped out by time and like what you do when you first wake up and like in
Yeah,
my
the
mind
daily.
I understand like what I want our mornings to look like, but I don't display that so much to the kids. Like, do you know what time this is and this is? And I think that would honestly help. I think it would be really helpful knowing that, there is like a window for each thing that we're going to do. And I think that would just help our day flow better.
Okay. So have you printed that out?
I have not, but I have it saved on my desktop.
Print that out and put it up. And I even have the blank one so you can edit it. Like you can
Right.
just write in pencil. You don't even have to keep printing them out. Like I print these out and I'll put them up on my fridge and I write on pencil. And if I need to change anything, I can just erase it. So
Right.
like go ahead and print that out and then you can point to it like, okay, we're at this part in our day. Okay, next we're going to be doing this. Like
Mhm.
that could be one way to implement that.
I feel like it would be really helpful to her. What I'm seeing is that she really misses that preschool, and I think part of it was that it set up an atmosphere where they got to go in, they put their picture on the tree that showed that they were like present that day. There's like a thing on the wall that has like visuals of what they would be doing for that day, just like small things, but it's a way to kind of like, bring them into it to make her more of a part of it than just being like, "Hey, we're going to do school for a little while." Um, she thrives on stuff like that. And I don't know that I have like, I still think we're creating our environment.
Yeah, I wonder if like we just created little like printable pictures for each of your subjects.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And
Like
having
art.
her,
Yeah.
mhm.
Okay. So printable subject image. Okay. All right. So then on the to do, we'll come back to that, but I know there was one to do back here. I might have to look at that after. I'll clean this up afterwards and then I'll send it to you. But so then I have like yeah, the routines, I have like my layout, but then I have the blank one. And then I wanted to just go through kind of since you mentioned you wanted to do mostly Bible. Do you homeschool Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday? Like what do you do for that?
Because he goes to that school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we are strictly like at home Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursdays are like enrichment days where we might go to the library or, go to a park and do something while he is at school. So that's like the only,
Tuesday and Thursdays enrichment?
yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
And Friday's kind of a free for all. It's a little bit of like, let's talk about this week, but we really focus on Monday and Wednesday being like our solid days of school.
So, Bible and language arts.
Hmm.
So, if you have 5 days in the week that you're focusing on this, Bible and language arts was your main things, but then you have two enrichment days. So that would show with your actions that Bible and language arts are equal to the enrichment activities. So would
Mm.
you want to put in Friday a Bible or language arts? Or would you like to take one of your enrichment days and still do either Bible or language arts?
Um,
Like, do you kind of see what I'm saying? Like, our actions show
yeah,
our priorities, you know?
right.
So it's like if you're really wanting to do a bit more of that, do you want to switch that schedule up a little bit?
Yeah, and I feel like despite us going, um, so the reason that they become enrichment days are because we're traveling into Wilmington and we can't really come back home in between
Okay.
drop off and pick up at preschool. So we're kind of like just in town finding things to do. But that doesn't mean that we can't go and sit at the park and do Bible and language.
So does
We
that
often
sound
be
easier for you, or does doing it on Friday sound easier?
probably on Friday.
Let's do
Yeah.
your path of least resistance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what do you want to do another day of? Bible or language arts, or do you want it to be a combo day?
Yeah, probably a combo.
All right. Bible.
And I know that we talked about those being like the two biggest, but does that incorporate other things like math and science, or did we just kind of say that that's like part of our everyday, so we're not?
That's what you were saying. You were saying that it's like your everyday, so you didn't really want to focus on it, like it just naturally happens. But do
Yeah.
you want to include it?
I think I that is where I struggle because yes, I do, but I also like when those things kind of do pop up organically, so it would be hard to say like where can I leave room um in those days to say, you know what I mean? Like it would be good for maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays when we are doing enrichment to like find specific activities that involve those two.
Yeah, let's take one of your enrichment days because science automatically you're already outdoors.
Right.
So let's take one of your enrichment days. Do you want it to be Tuesday or Thursday? And you could always switch this up. Just pick one.
Let's do Thursdays because Tuesdays is when we do meet with our other homeschool friends, and that it's not that there's never an activity, but it often turns into like play and just social time. So
Okay. So we have Bible for Monday, enrichment for Tuesday, language arts for Wednesday, science and math for Thursday, Bible and language arts for Friday.
that sounds
Okay.
great.
So I'm going to go ahead and plug in some different stuff. I'll have a blank one for you, and
Mhm.
I'm going to plug in some different stuff from what we talked about, some stuff that we have in Flourish that would be helpful for that. And then you can play around with it. You'll be able to print this out. If it's like specifically an item that you need to go to, like there will be a link to it. You would just
Oh,
click on it and it would link to it. So it's super nice digitally to have that all in one place, but then it's also handy to print out to just kind of know like, oh, this is what we're doing, and then you already have the stuff printed out. Um,
yeah.
unless if it's like a YouTube video, like I have like a doxology hymn for like
Mm.
a part of ours, and so
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
I saw that. Love that.
that's been fun. It's an easy one for them to start learning.
Right.
And so like that links directly to the YouTube video. And then I also just have it saved in a playlist on YouTube. So
Okay.
like that's something you can do for some organization also. So I'm gonna kind of like work through this, but I already know for language arts, you said you had that forest
It's
that forest
Alphabet
book,
Forest. Yeah.
alphabet forest.
I guess the company is Acorn to Oak or yeah.
Okay. And then I'll put that in a couple times here. Like, something I've been working on is mastery. Do you want to work through that? I know you also want variety, and I'm the same way. I need some variety to keep me entertained, but there's also an aspect of like finishing something so we don't have too many things. So like
Yes,
if you're to have like two language arts resources, like would you be fine with that?
I would be fine with that, but I can also see that it would probably be something good for me to just have one thing to focus on. I think there's a lot of aspects about our life that is never a box checked off. And I think that actually feeds a lot of like struggle and anxiety for me. So it
I hear
might be
you.
good for me to have something like that where
Yeah.
I just began and finished it.
Okay, let's go ahead and I'm gonna put Alphabet Forest since that's what you have right now,
Okay.
or 4 out of the 5 weeks of the month, and then you get a different activity. Or should we do two since you're easing into it? What do you think?
You too.
Let's take it easy on you.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm gonna have technically 3 of the Alphabet Forest, and then 2 weeks you will be doing something else.
Okay.
So, and you didn't mention you had any other language arts activities. I'm gonna link what are you guys working on? You're working on ABCs and phonics?
Yeah.
Okay. I
It's just
have,
like a pretty loose introduction, though.
that's fine. I'm going to write down the phonics activity book that's in Flourish, which if you go to the collections again, you should
Okay.
be able to see that in either the class replays or like homeschool resources. It'll be in one of those or both of those. And I'm going to put that for the other two since that's something that you have access to right now.
Wow, I
And
didn't.
a lot of that is like animals. So I think she'll like that. Um, It has like mazes to go through. Like the first thing is like A, help the alligator get to the apple, and like she has to follow the A's in the
Oh,
maze. So like
okay.
I think she'll have fun with that. Um, and then Bible, I'm gonna link in these studies that we found into here. And then enrichment was art. Do you have a good art resource that you want to start using?
So I have found some really great books that I've like held on to from the library that are really good for this age and um just different like fun activities, but I haven't been using them religiously. It's just something I like reference to. So no, I don't really have a solid resource.
Okay. So that's going on the to-do because we need to find some art stuff because that was a big thing that you had mentioned. And I'm
Yeah,
trying to see what else.
the only thing about the art is that it she's very free flow. I'm kind of the same way where I could give her like an activity where it's like, we're gonna make this thing. It's almost always gonna be her interpretation of what,
Let it be. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah. Like we went and did a nativity scene like clay thing.
So I
And
love,
it was really fun. And I made that, but Jace was like, I'm gonna make a car. Let him make the car. Do what you're still learning the manipulatives. You still hear what we're talking about. Like you're learning multiple things, and that was your interest, and that's fine. Like let her switch it up.
okay.
And maybe we can figure out. Oh, I feel like the heat isn't on. So cold. I feel like it just dropped a degree.
It's
Okay.
cold.
Um, I feel like there's a way we can kind of incorporate like does she it sounded like she liked art study too. Like maybe we can look at like the types of art and she can have the freedom to create within that. So like you give her a few pictures of this like art type and I know I'm not using the right words because I'll need to do some research on this. and then she can
Like a medium, you mean like different art
that might be
mediums?
the right word for it. Like, or even like a time period. I'm just
Mhm.
thinking of like I'm working right now on like this collab to where me and another lady, she teaches piano actually. And so we're focusing on like a music time period. So like an art time period. So I'm just thinking like that could be something
Well, that
there.
is like strictly my background is all the arts.
Okay. So
Yeah,
that
every
might
single
be
type of discipline.
something you would get really excited about too. All right.
Yep.
I have all this stuff here. I'm gonna organize it, get it pretty, and get it sent over to you. So give me like, what are we? What's tomorrow? Thursday?
Mhm.
So give me a couple days and then I'll be able to get this sent over and we'll start playing with it. We'll work through it. We'll troubleshoot as you go through it
Yeah.
and we'll see what's working, what's not working, things like that. Does
Okay.
that sound good?
Lighting. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Awesome. I'm so glad. All right, Claire. Let's go ahead and get some rest. It's
Okay.
almost 9 o'clock. That's
Yeah. Well,
when my,
thank you so
my
much.
energy starts to drop is like 9 o'clock always.
Oh, yeah, sometimes earlier.
And yeah,
All
I'm
right.
happy to do it. I'll talk with you more soon, okay?